For more now on the demise of Toys R Us and how the toy landscape is changing, we're joined by Richard Gottlieb, principal and founder at Global Toy Group. Good to see you, Richard.
Good to see you.
All right, let's start with Toys R Us and what went wrong in the United States. Is it a changing retail landscape, or did they in particular do something wrong?
I think all of the above. The company really has not been an effective retailer since Charles Lazarus left back in, I think it was 1994. Charles Lazarus loved product. He loved toys. He was a merchant. And since then, we've really had a series of people running the company who are excellent business people, but they really do not understand necessarily toys, which is a kind of a unique commodity.
Unique, I guess, in the sense that you need to understand what it is that children want. And here we are having adults making these decisions. Is that the uniqueness of it, the special gifts someone might have to sell toys to kids?
I think you've got to, first of all, you have to have a little bit of kid in you. I think that does help. But I think that if you are a person who is in the business of moving money around, as opposed to someone who really tries to think in terms of how do I curate my stores, how do I select product and present it in such a way that just the experience of visiting my store is a dynamic experience because the product is so great. Toys R Us hasn't had that. That plus the fact that they've had a tremendous amount of debt, which has killed them, it's really prevented them from doing a lot of the modernization they've needed to do. And then finally, I think over the years, they've really cut down on the number of products they carry. It was at one time, Toys R Us carried virtually everything, if it was a toy. And as they cut that down over the years, they kind of lost some of that significance of being that magic place where I'm going to see something I never expected to see.
Now, MGA Entertainment is interested in the Canadian assets, and they told us here at BNN that if there's no Toys R Us, I don't think there is a toy business. Is that a bit of an extreme take? Kids aren't going to want toys if there's no Toys R Us?
I know Isaac. And he's a very powerful man, and I think that's a bit of an emotional statement. I think that we are going to see a tremendous void and therefore a huge opportunity for some really sharp toy retailers to come into the North American market and do a lot of business. It's going to happen. It's funny, I look back to the last time we had a major toy retailer bankruptcy that was similar to Toys R Us, and that was the Child World stores, Children's Palace, in 1992. And I looked and I saw, amazingly, according to NPD, the industry was up 12% the year they went bankrupt and 15% the next year. So as an industry, the Toys R Us since 1940, the toy industry since 1940 has been up on an average of about 3.85% a year. So we're a pretty tough industry, and we're going to be around. Kids love toys. They just need a great place to go buy them.
Is it curious at all that the Canadian division of Toys R Us seems to be in much better shape than the American division? Are the two retail markets that different?
All I can tell you is whenever I talk to the Canadian Toys R Us people, they said the U.S. Toys R Us people would never listen to them. So that should probably tell you everything you need to know.
Okay, definitely a short answer on that one, but I think a lot of insight. When we start thinking about the people who make the toys that were on the shelves, Mattel, Hasbro, Toronto's Spin Master, this isn't great news for them. This is the traditional distribution center for them at Toys R Us.
Yeah, it's going to be a struggle. The consumers are still going to want toys, and you're going to see movement as this settles out with people having to find new places to make their purchases. And a lot of that business will go to Target, which I think has plans to increase the size of their toy departments. It's going to go to Walmart. We've had some people get back into the toy industry, like JCPenney this year. FAO Schwartz is opening a store in Manhattan, and I've heard rumors that Hamleys out of the UK is thinking about coming into the States. And I would anticipate some sharp retailers. I would hope one of your Canadian retailers, Mastermind Toys, would come into the United States. They are a brilliant company.
Definitely a mastermind, definitely an interesting entry into this space. When I think, too, of the people who are selling toys into Toys R Us, do they get hit by the fact that there's one fewer competitor out there? I think of Walmart. We hear about their pricing power, the fact that they can squeeze suppliers because they're so huge and have that purchasing power. Do they squeeze Mattel? Do they squeeze the toys makers?
Oh, yeah. Well, they've been squeezing people since, 1954? It's a big part of doing business with Walmart. So you're going to see, I think, some added pressure putting on the toy suppliers. But on the other hand, I think the toy suppliers are going to very much want to see a new entry into the marketplace and will certainly be good to whoever that entry is.
When I think about traditional bricks and mortar retail and everyone talking about the fact that online is the way of the future, my kids are a bit older now. They used to love going to Toys R Us because it was a room full of toys. Does that make it a bit of a different space in terms of it perhaps surviving in the brick and mortar concept?
Yeah, I hear a lot of people talking about not just toys, but that the retail having to provide, bricks and mortar retail, needing to provide entertainment. And I think the ultimate entertainment is great product. What's exciting about going to a store is the selection of merchandise, the way it's laid out. And again, with toys, it is so essential that there be an element of magic in the experience. That as you stand outside that store, you have a moment of anticipation and excitement. That you're going to see something great. And if you have ever been to FAO Schwartz back in the 80s and 70s, those children had that experience. Adults did too.
All right, fascinating stuff. Thanks for joining us, Richard.
Pleasure.
That was Richard Gottlieb, principal and founder of Global Toy Group.